got a slip in your palm and a hole in your chest. Black coffee on the felt, man, you look like a mess. 3-team parlay turned to dust in your hand. Now you stare at the chips like they made you this man. But don't you go quiet, don't you fade from the floor. Your name still means something to somebody for sure. Put the glass down, baby. Look at me now. Hold on, hold on. Not tonight, not now. Hold on. Let me pull you out. That fella bites hard, but it don't get the crown.
What's up, everybody? It's Toad back with you with Toadstool Sports. Tuesday, July 7th. 1-0 on the show yesterday, so I'm trying something different with my headphones here, but I hear an echo behind me, so I don't know what I want to do about this. I'm going to try to, yeah, that's better, I think. I don't know. No, I feel like my monitoring is on a delay here. I don't know. This is not what I wanted. This is not good. I might have to ditch this again. I apologize. I'm trying something new to try to limit my voice here, but it's just not working. I need to do direct monitoring through my Scarlet over here, and I was trying to do it through Windows, but it's just, I don't know, it's just not working right. But yes, we went 1-0 on the show yesterday. Yankees won. It wasn't as easy as it looked. They didn't have many hits at all. They were winning the whole game once they scored. It was nothing. They scored 3, and they made it 3-0. But they only had 1 hit at that point, so it wasn't exactly what it looked like on the scoreboard. They actually got out-hit in the game, but they finished off the game, and they won 5-1, so we got the win with that. I'm pissed that I didn't add Belgium to my card. That was my favorite of the soccer plays. That would have been the next thing I would have added to my card. You know, I know I was right about some other baseball stuff, too. What can you do, man? I mean, when you're selective, you're going to have opinions that you have that are right, and they just go unbet. But, yeah, I should have bet Belgium, and that was such an easy win with Belgium. So congratulations to Saab for that. Yes, thank you. Gerald, what's up? All right, I should be, 8-3, 9-3 with soccer, and I'm only 7-3 from leaving things on the table, but I guess, at least one of the wins was lucky, so whatever. We got a lot of baseball today. I actually hate the baseball board today. It is bad. There are a lot of undecided pitchers. There are a lot of games that looked like they'd be a game that I would play, and they turned out to not be. So I don't really like any of this. We have a doubleheader with Milwaukee and St. Louis, which I assume is from some previous rain out that these teams have had. I have no idea because these teams also played yesterday. St. Louis returned home for a road trip, and they did lose 4-3 yesterday. This is going to be really difficult to handicap because we have no idea what St. Louis is doing with their pitching. I'm pretty sure they used Dustin May yesterday. So I don't know what they're doing today at this point. I think Michael McGreevy is going to pitch one of these games, but we have no idea which. Right now, the first game is at 2:15 Eastern. It's that early because there's a doubleheader here. It looks like Jacob Misiorowski is going for Milwaukee in Game 1. These games are going to be almost impossible to predict, though. St. Louis used 4 relief pitchers yesterday. I think we could assume Misiorowski will do well, even though he did have one really bad start recently. Milwaukee used 2 relief pitchers. Milwaukee is the better bullpen here. They are ranked 9th. St. Louis is ranked 21st. Hitting-wise, Milwaukee's been better as well. They're 18th. St. Louis is 16th. Miz looks like he is going in Game 1 here, which it does look like that's the case here, and that's why Milwaukee is a big favorite at minus 190 here, or somewhere around there. 83% of tickets, 80% of the cash on them, so the money is fading Milwaukee, and they're a very public side, but it's like, how can you fade Milwaukee when you don't even know who St. Louis is putting out there on the mound? I mean, I guess it's just a value play, basically. Like, the professional money is basically just saying, well, we just think Milwaukee is going to be overpriced with Mizurowski on the mound, plain and simple. I mean, I dig deeper than that. I don't just throw money on perceived value. Like, I need matchup stuff to line up for me. Mizurowski's been really good. He's still the Cy Young frontrunner in the NL. 1.47 ERA, 0.78 WHIP, 1.3 ERA on the road. Really, really good stuff here. Like I said, he wasn't even bad last time out against Cincinnati. We got screwed on the show because I gave out an under in that game. It was Mizurowski against Burns. Mizurowski gave up 5 runs, and 4 of them were unearned. I mean, so he wasn't even bad in that game. He had 10 strikeouts. Just the fielding was awful for the Brewers in that game. He does do well against St. Louis. 46 at-bats, 217 average, 591 OPS. So I would not bank on him pitching poorly. I mean, that is not what I would do. If you're going to fade him, it's going to be really just that you're trying to get some value on St. Louis, but they really don't have too many edges here, like I showed you. Milwaukee, better team, better bullpen, better offense. I mean, what more do you want? And McGreevy is going to pitch one of these games, most likely. I don't know what St. Louis is doing otherwise, but he's been good for them. 3.12 ERA, 1.11 WHIP. He's good at home, 1.96 home ERA. He was pretty good in his last 2 starts against Miami at home and Atlanta on the road. McGreevy doesn't strike a lot of guys out. He's got a low hit rate, though, and a pretty low walk rate, too. So he doesn't put guys on base, but he doesn't strike them out. Milwaukee, though, hammers him. 17 at-bats, not a big sample size there, but 412 average, 1265 OPS, 6-3 strikeout walk ratio. So that's not good. So McGreevy, in whichever game he pitches, definitely could be fadeable here. If he's pitching in game 1, obviously I do not like St. Louis, if that is the pitching matchup. I don't know if you could really play Milwaukee there, but, again, I mean, this is just a hard doubleheader to figure out. Miz, by the way, before I forget, obviously has a really low hit rate, one of the lowest. Walk rate is pretty low as well, and strikeout rate is, I think, maybe the highest in baseball. So do what you want with all that info. The second game doesn't even have a line on it yet, and neither team has announced a starter yet. There is the possibility of a call-up because when you have a doubleheader, teams are allowed to call, I think, maybe 1 or 2 guys up from the minors just for that day. So keep that in mind. But, I always also say with the doubleheader that a lot of times I tend to look kind of towards an over in game 2 because the bullpen usage can be really high in game 1. All things to consider, but there's no way I'm touching either of those games. I mean, there's just not enough information. Dirty Sock, what's up? Thanks for hanging out. All right, 1 second here. I got to do something about my voice. My voice is just so bad right now. I don't know what is going on with this, and I'm trying to do something so I can hear myself and fix this. I don't know what to do. I need to do something where I can lower my voice but monitor my own voice here. It's just not working out. Next game is my only play in baseball, and I don't even like it. I really don't. I was close to not even giving out a baseball play. This board is it's bad, and there are a lot of undecided starters here. I'm going to give out the Chicago Cubs as a play here against Baltimore. These two teams both rested yesterday. Baltimore's returning home from a road trip, although it was only a quick road trip to Cincinnati. Now, that's not that bad. Usually I like to fade teams when they've been on longer road trips and they're returning home, but still, I don't think Baltimore is that good. I think Chicago is better than they are. I still think it's a slightly negative spot for Baltimore, and they did just lose a win streak of, I think, 3 games with that loss to the Reds, so maybe that will hang them over a little bit. Meanwhile, Chicago salvaged the last game against St. Louis to end their losing streak. That might give them some momentum going forward, and they're starting a road trip here, so I think the Cubs may be focused here in a spot like this. I also like the starting pitching to favor the Cubs here. We do have 2 rested bullpens, and the Cubs are also the better bullpen. Even though they haven't been that good recently, they're now 12th. Baltimore is 14th. But I still think the Cubs are the better bullpen. So I will leave them in. in a scenario where both bullpens are rested. And I think Baltimore's closer is still hurt too. But if all things go right here, they shouldn't even be in a scenario where they want to bring him in. Cubs are the better offense. They're ranked 5th. Baltimore is 17th. And I like the starting pitching, like I said, even though it's a little bit questionable with Matthew Boyd here. I mean, I know his season numbers don't look good. 5.08 ERA, 1.4 whip. Obviously, that's bad. He's slightly worse on the road, 5.19 road ERA. But if you look at what he's done over the last couple of years, I mean, I don't really know how it happened, but he came from out of nowhere, and he was really good for Cleveland in 2024, although he didn't pitch much. But then he had a full season last year for the Cubs where he was really good. So I'm kind of expecting him to get back to something similar to that, even though I know he's not young. He's 35. He's coming back from injuries and stuff. He's showing some signs of maybe getting a little better here. He's coming back from another injury where he missed almost 2 months. He didn't do that well against the Mets. Did have 4 walks. And then he pitched against San Diego, which I know those are basically the easiest matchups you could have. But he pitched okay against San Diego. I think he's going to continue improving a bit here. And he has good numbers against Baltimore, which I know, I mean, I don't know how much weight we want to put into this, but they've had 33 at-bats against them. They only have 2 extra base hits, doubles from Rutschman and Tavares. 13 strikeouts, 1 walk, 212 average, 508 OPS. So he has really good numbers against Baltimore. So I'm going to lean into that a little bit. And I'm also going to fade Shane Baz on the other side, even though he has the better-looking numbers. 4.19 ERA, 1.37 whip is not that good, though. He is a little bit better at home, 4.08 home ERA. Baz was pitching a little bit better throughout the last, month plus, basically, for the most part, but he's got some issues here, man. Like, his control is still kind of a problem. He walked 4 guys last time out. He's got a pretty low hit rate, basically, but his walk rate is too high. His strikeout rate's not really that good. He's not a great pitcher, and really this is a matchup play for me because his numbers against the Cubs, I know it's a small 22 at-bat sample size, but this is some bad stuff. 500 batting average, 1340 OPS, 5-to-1 strikeout walk ratio. That's the only good thing about these numbers. I basically had to. I mean, this is all I found on the board, man. And as far as Boyd is concerned, we just don't have a big sample size this year to look at. So I think last year is closer to an indicator of what he is than this year. That would be the hope here, at least. But he does have a high hit rate. His walk rate's not excellent. His strikeout rate is still there, though. So that is a good sign that he still has more than 1 strikeout per inning this year. So that should tell you that he does still have his stuff. He has his strikeout ability. So I'm going to do it. This is my only play. It's probably my least favorite of my plays today. It's a short price on the Cubs. They got 59% of tickets, 62% of the cash on them. Maybe you worry a little bit because it looks too easy maybe to play the Cubs here. I guess that would be the worry. But they haven't exactly been playing great baseball recently, so I don't know. I just felt that the matchup was right, and the money looks like it's slightly indicating in that same direction, so that's my only baseball play. Maybe I should have just left the entire baseball board alone. A's at Detroit. Both teams were off yesterday. Detroit is returning home from a road trip where they were really good. They swept the Yankees in the Bronx. Then they took 2 out of 3 in Texas. So this is a bad spot for Detroit. They're returning home from the road. As I reiterate over and over again, bad spot. You can get distracted. You have to get back to home life, whatever. The A's are starting a road trip off a bad sweep at the hands of Miami at home. So the A's should be in a better spot. Like, a lot of times teams will bounce back when they're doing bad at home and they just get out of there and go on the road. But there are some issues if you want the A's here. Mostly that their pitching doesn't match up that well here. Mostly the bullpen. Their bullpen's bad, 25th. Who are we talking? I forget who we're talking. Oh, Detroit. Yeah, Detroit's bullpen is okay. They're at 19th. The A's are the better offense. They're 9th. Detroit is 18th. Starting pitching, though, you could argue that the A's are less... you could argue the A's should be less of an underdog here than what they are, because the A's are going with JT Ginn, and he might actually be their best starting pitcher. He's got a 3.04 ERA, 1.23 whip, which isn't amazing, but it's not bad, especially considering he has to pitch in the A's stadium, which is awful. Ginn is actually well suited for it because he induces a lot of ground balls, and he's been better on the road, which makes sense because pitching in that stadium is really difficult. 2.31 road ERA. So he's in his better of his home road splits. He had 5 walks last time out against the Dodgers. That is a little bit concerning. It's also concerning that he threw over 100 pitches for the first time this year. So a lot of times I miss that. But when a pitcher throws over 100 pitches for the first time, a lot of times you do want to fade them in the next game. And I believe that was the case with Griffin Jax yesterday, by the way, who we faded because he was pitching for Tampa Bay. He was not bad in that game, though. So, but sometimes when a pitcher exerts themselves like that, they won't do as well the next time out. Ginn was good in that start, though. Besides the walks, he gave up 1 run in 6 innings to the Dodgers. So that's still pretty good. He's got a low hit rate. His walk rate is still too high, though. His strikeout rate's a little bit low, but Ginn's main issue is his walks. He does induce a lot of ground balls, like I said, so that's how he gets away with pitching in the A's stadium. Going up against Detroit, he does not have particularly good numbers in 37 at-bats, 324 average, 748 OPS is not as bad as you might think. It's still not really something I want to back, though. 9-1 strikeout walk ratio, and he's going to have to go up against Tarek Skubal, who is still one of the best pitchers in baseball. He's coming back from injury. He looks pretty good again. 3.15 ERA, 0.91 whip. Hasn't been as good at home, though. 4.44 home ERA, which is kind of interesting. But, I mean, since he's come back from injury, it's kind of like he's improved with every start. He's going deeper into these starts. He just pitched really well against the Yankees. Really 2 starts in a row. I mean, I know he gave up 4 runs the first time, but 1 hit them the second time, gave up 1 earned run. He had 18 strikeouts and no walks over those 2 starts. And since he's come back, he has a 30-2 strikeout walk ratio. So, yeah, we get it. He's still good. He's got a low hit rate on the season, a really low walk rate on the season, and a high strikeout rate as well. His numbers against the A's, they're a pretty formidable lineup, but he's pretty much dominated them in 59 at-bats, 23 strikeouts, 1 walk. Yeah, that's pretty good. 186 batting average, 590 OPS allowed. I know it's a bad spot for Detroit, so I don't want to play them. You know that you're going to get it's going to be the price is going to be too high with Skubal on the mound. You know, you're always going to pay a tax for him, if you want to call it that. Minus 180 something is the price on Detroit. The money is fading them. 88% of tickets, 86% of the cash on them. Obviously, there are 2 reasons for that. One is it's a bad spot, the return home spot. 2 is that the price is just too high on Skubal. And I agree that Ginn might have the ability to battle Skubal here because he is not that bad, but he's still worse than Skubal and has the worst matchup numbers here. So I don't want to bank on that, even though that argument could be made. But if you want to play the A's, you got to play them first 5. You can't leave their bullpen in, even though they are rested. There's no way I would do that. The under is kind of an interesting thought. I mean, the total's at 8. I wouldn't include the A's bullpen in that either, though. If I was going to go under, I would go first 5 here. You could consider the under maybe because, I mean, you're looking at the best starting pitcher basically from both teams here. Problem with that is still, though, that Ginn just doesn't really match up that well here. So do with that what you want, but he is in the better of his home road splits. I think that is my preferred approach in this game, though. Probably is first 5 under, though. All right. Atlanta and Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is returning home from a road trip. They went to Philly and Washington, so it's not exactly a long distance they're traveling here, but they still went out on the road. They had a couple of pretty big series here. They beat Washington to finish their road trip. They had yesterday off, which Atlanta did not. So both teams have a disadvantage that the other team doesn't. So Atlanta is starting a road trip, and usually I like teams that are starting a road trip, especially because Atlanta just lost twice to the Mets. They wound up splitting that series with the Mets. Ridiculous. Both their losses by 1 run. Which we won on the second to last game in that series, although that should have been an easier win for the Mets. The Mets were up 7 in the 8th inning, I think, in that game, and they almost blew it. Or maybe it was the 9th inning even. Anyway, Atlanta started a road trip off a couple embarrassing losses. So that should be a positive spot for Atlanta. Problem is Atlanta played yesterday, and Pittsburgh did not. Problem for Pittsburgh is they're returning home from a road trip. So, it's a tough spot to figure out because there are negatives on both sides here. So Atlanta has an advantage in the road trip dynamics. Pittsburgh has a rest advantage. So which one of those wins out here? I don't know. I mean, yeah, it's difficult to say. I think in this case, probably the road trip advantage, in my opinion, might win out. So I would probably give Atlanta a little bit of a situational edge. But that was an extra inning game for Atlanta yesterday. Their bullpen didn't do well in that game, and they're used up right now. They used 5 guys out of the bullpen yesterday. That's not great, although Atlanta still has a bullpen advantage here. They're number 1 still, although the Yankees are actually catching up to them, which I do not like. Pittsburgh is not a very good bullpen. They are, where are they at? They're way down at 22nd. Yeah, not very good. Atlanta's offense has fallen off a bit. They're 15th. Pittsburgh is 2nd. Pittsburgh does have the better offense. This is an interesting pitching matchup. We have 2 pretty young pitchers here. Hurston Waldrop pitching for Atlanta. And by the way, Garrett can correct me if I'm wrong, but I heard that Waldrop is a former NASCAR driver. Is that right? Now he's pitching in the major leagues. I don't know, man. This guy, he's got various talents. Now, Waldrop is kind of interesting because he did pitch a bit last year, and he put up some pretty good numbers for Atlanta last year, although his walk rate was too high. This year, it's hard to gauge what he's doing because he's only had a couple of starts. 3.68 ERA, although his whip doesn't look good right now, 1.64. But based on last year, he's better than that. He has a 0 road ERA right now, but that's because he only has 1 road start. And it actually wasn't really that good. He went 2 innings and he walked 4 guys against San Francisco. That's not great, but he did pitch okay at home last time, even though his whip is kind of spiked right now, but that's because of his walks in the first game. Last game, he was actually a little bit better. He held St. Louis to 3 runs in 5 1/3 innings. He was decent in that one. I think he's a decent pitcher. I mean, his walk rate's a bit concerning right now, but that was just 1 start where he hadn't pitched in the majors since last year, so maybe you give him a pass for that. But last year, like I said, his walks were his main issue last year, though. So hard to gauge what's going on here. He's given up like 1 hit an inning and has 1 strikeout per inning right now for the most part. Pittsburgh only has 1 guy that's faced him, Brandon Lowe. He's 1 for 1 with a home run off him, though, and a walk. But still, I mean, I think Waldrop is okay. And maybe you do get a little bit of value on the Atlanta side because if you're going to take Atlanta, you're fading Paul Skeens. And you know Skeens is heavily priced in the market. Skeens also is not pitching well right now. His ERA has ballooned to 3.62, which that's pretty high for Skeens' ERA, man, although his whip is still pretty good at 1.01. But yeah, he's not going to win the Cy Young, man. His ERA should be lower than it is, though. He's been good at home, 3.02 home ERA. Last couple starts, though, I mean, he's been rough the last couple starts. Not very good. He just got bombed by Philadelphia for 7 earned runs, although it was on 6 hits. So you could make the argument he got a little bit unlucky in that start against Pittsburgh. Like, Skeens is going to bounce back at some point. I mean, he's still one of the best pitchers in baseball. He's got a low hit rate, low walk rate, high strikeout rate, all that good stuff. Still has overall good numbers, too, although for Skeens, they don't look that good. Going up against the Braves, he's got good numbers here, but they only have 5 hitters who have faced him. 12 at-bats, no extra base hits, 6 strikeouts, 1 walk, 167 average, 397 OPS. I mean, I'm almost certain the public is going to be fading Skeens, or I'm almost certain the professionals are going to be fading Skeens here. Let me see what the money looks like. Yeah, 75% of tickets, 51% of the cash on Pittsburgh. I know how the professionals operate, dude. They're still going to be like, yeah, Skeens laying minus 170 here. Like, that price is too high. So the professionals are going to just grab Atlanta. And in some ways, it makes sense, right? Like, if you play Atlanta, you can grab them probably on like a run line or maybe do a split run line, money line bet. And you'll get a starting pitcher that might be able to hang in there. And then you get the better bullpen, and you get what I think is maybe the better situation. However, you do have to worry because Atlanta's bullpen hasn't been that good over the last few games, and they really, really got used yesterday. So that worries me. Still probably better than Pittsburgh's bullpen, though. The money's also backing the over in this game at 8, which is, I don't know, kind of interesting, I guess. I think the under might make sense here. Like, first 5 under might make some sense here, man, because Waldrop might have a little bit of an extra advantage because Pittsburgh is not familiar with him. I always talk about when young pitchers have unfamiliarity, the offense can struggle a bit. But we're talking about Pittsburgh is one of the top offenses in baseball, man, and they're really good at home. So this is not an easy matchup for Waldrop. So that would worry me a little bit too. So I think Skeens does still have the upper hand in this matchup. But there is an argument maybe for like a first 5 under here. I don't think I'd want to go full game because you got an unrested Atlanta bullpen, a not good Pittsburgh bullpen. But yeah, I mean, I would worry about Waldrop in this particular scenario. So it's a difficult game to really find a good way to play it. So I think it's a stay away. But you might get decent starts out of both pitchers there. Yankees at Tampa Bay. We did win with the Yankees yesterday. This game is on TBS. The game wasn't really what it looked like, though. Like I said, Caballero hit 2 home runs, and the Yankees got out-hit 4-3. So Schlittler was good, but Jax was actually pretty good, too. Jax had 10 strikeouts in the game. Now, Schlittler went 8 innings, so he pretty much saved the Yankees' bullpen here. But the result was misleading. Like, this was not a 5-1 Yankees win. It should have been a lot closer. But we got the win on the show, so I'll be okay with that, even though I want the Yankees to lose. Now, what this does, though, remember, part of my handicap yesterday was Tampa was in a return home spot. And when a team returns home from the road and they lose that first game, a lot of times they bounce back and they do better in the next game. So Tampa might be able to do that. Both teams, I think, are going to show up here. This is a big series, although the Yankees probably need the series a little bit more because they're behind Tampa still by 3 games, even though I think the Yankees are the better team. I don't know about the Yankees matchup in this one. They did save their bullpen, but they did use, I think, their closer, right? Bednar. They used him to finish the game yesterday. I don't know why they really did that with a 4-run lead, but whatever. Tampa Bay used 3 relief pitchers. The Yankees, like I said, they've moved up to 2nd in bullpen, and they have the 2nd best bullpen ERA right now. I don't know how sold I am on that. I mean, they're good. I don't know if they're quite that good, but they're good. Tampa's bullpen is ranked 9th, I think. Oh, no, 8th. I don't think they're that good, though. Still a mid-4s ERA, so I think they're probably a mid-tier bullpen. Yankees, their offense has struggled a bit recently. They're all the way down to 10th. Tampa Bay's 13th, tied with Houston, but I still think Yankees are the better offense here. Yankees in this game, though, they're going with Will Warren, so they're not going with one of their best pitchers here, although he's been all right. 3.73 ERA, 1.33 whip. Warren is actually a little bit better on the road this year, 3.64 road ERA, but I believe he wasn't good last year on the road, so that's something to keep in mind. He was pretty good in his last start against Detroit, but he was struggling a bit prior to that. He had some issues in the month of June, a lot of walks in there, way too hittable too, so I don't know if I would say he's in good form right now, even though his last start against Detroit was pretty good. He's got a hit rate that's right around 1 per inning, very average. Walk rate is decent. Strikeout rate is pretty good, above 1 per inning. So he's an all right pitcher. His numbers against Tampa Bay are not great. Tampa Bay does have the upper hand against him slightly. In 35 at-bats, 286 average, 753 OPS. I use 750 as a threshold. I think the OPS is what matters the most. Batting average, I don't even know what threshold I would use batting average now because I grew up through the 90s when batting averages were all higher. And Major League Baseball is trying to do all these things to make the game more exciting and offensive, and everybody's batting average is completely in the fucking tank. It's so fucking stupid, dude. Bring back steroids. Warren, 6 strikeouts, 2 walks against Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay is going with Ian Seymour. And I will tell you that if you want to play this game, I think you should pick Warren must start, but don't select a Tampa starter because it is going to be Seymour in this game, but they've used an opener in front of him multiple times, so Tampa Bay may be putting an opener in front of him again, so I'm just going to warn you about that. I mean, again, this is what happens in baseball now. He might start, but he might not. Seymour has actually been fairly good for Tampa. I don't know what the deal is. They must have good pitching coaching because they seem to get the most out of every one of their starters. Like, you look at their starting rotation, and you're like, who are these guys? And most of them pitch pretty well. 4.02 ERA, 1.09 WHIP is quite good. He's been really good at home, 2.73 home ERA. Really good in his last 2 starts, but they were both against Kansas City. He went 12 and 2/3 innings and only gave up 3 hits and 1 run. Had 15 strikeouts and 2 walks. But it was against Kansas City, so, you got to dial it back a little bit. But one of those games was on the road where it's more difficult to pitch, and Kansas City hits better at home. So give him some credit for that. He was pitching out of the bullpen a lot earlier in the season. But overall, he does have a low hit rate. His walk rate is too high. His strikeout rate is actually fairly high. Against the Yankees, his numbers are a little bit all over the place. In 27 at-bats, 10 strikeouts, 1 walk, that's good. 222 average allowed, that's good. But they've hit him for power. Bellinger and Ben Rice both have home runs off him. 806 OPS. But in a case like this, I don't know, man. I mean, the home runs seem a little bit fluky to me because it's not a big sample size. I think the strikeout-walk ratio and the batting average tell more of the story here than the OPS does. So, I don't know, man. I don't necessarily think that Seymour matches up that badly there. Other thing to consider is that Tampa Bay is really good at home this year. They're 31 and 13 at home. That's good, although the Yankees have been pretty good on the road, 27 and 20. But Tampa Bay has one of the best home records, maybe the best in baseball. And I believe Tampa Bay swept the Yankees in this stadium earlier this season. So the Yankees had not won in Tampa Bay until yesterday this year. So some things of note in this game. I believe the money is backing Tampa Bay here because the Yankees usually get public action, but I told you that yesterday the Yankees were not public. But it seems like it's now, the Yankees just beat Tampa Bay, so the Yankees must be back, even though Will Warren is not Cam Schlittler. I don't think Will Warren's going to go 8 innings and allow 1 run on 3 hits or whatever Schlittler did yesterday. 54% of the tickets on the Yankees, 89% of the cash on Tampa Bay. So the money is strongly indicating on Tampa Bay here. They're at like minus 118. I don't have a feel for it. The money's also backing the over. I could see the argument for the over just because both starting pitchers don't really have good OPSs against them with this matchup. So the over 8 might be worth considering. I think maybe I don't know. If I was going to give out anything on this game, maybe that would be what makes the most sense. But obviously, I don't love this game. I do slightly agree with Tampa as well. I mean, I think they do have a slight starting pitching edge here. Could be in the bounce back spot, like I said, after losing the return home spot. That tends to be a strong bounce back spot. But if you're going to play Tampa, I think I would limit it to first 5 innings, though, because they do not have a bullpen advantage. So I think Tampa first 5 maybe is worth a look, but I don't know. The over makes more sense to me, I think, in that one. I'm not going to do it, though. And yesterday's game was very low scoring, but maybe that's a better indicator towards an over here. It's a different pitching matchup this time. All right. Although Seymour and Jax are probably pretty similar to each other. Seattle and Miami, I took a look at this game, and this game just screams under to me based on the starting pitching. But then I started digging into it, and I'm like, yeah, I don't really want to do that. Now, both of these teams were off yesterday, so that helps with an under, in my opinion, because the bullpens get to rest. The offenses might cool off a little bit. These offenses aren't really that good in general. Seattle is still struggling, 25th in offense. Miami has moved up, but Miami's actually 6th, but I don't think they're that good, and I'm going to warn against Miami's offense here because Miami their offensive numbers just all got skewed because they're coming back from a road trip where they played in Coors Field and in the Athletic Stadium. So obviously that's going to pad any team's offensive numbers. You know what I mean? When you play in the 2 most offensive stadiums in baseball, now that they're back home in a pitcher-friendly ballpark, I don't see Miami's offense doing nearly as much damage here. So a lot of things lining up towards an under here. Miami did return home from a long road trip, but they went to St. Louis first, then Colorado and the A's. So I don't like the spot for Miami. Returning home from a long road trip, I talk about it can be a pretty major distraction spot. They did just sweep the A's on the road, which is a decent sweep for Miami there. Don't know that they're going to overlook Seattle necessarily, though, because Seattle's still a pretty good team. But still, it's an interleague game. I don't know how much it really means to Miami. Miami, by the way, they're not doing too bad right now. They're in the NL East race here, and I believe if the playoffs started right now, I think Miami would be in, which is kind of ridiculous to think about. But Miami not playing too badly this year. Things to consider, although I think Seattle is still better than they are. But Miami's been good at home. Seattle's not particularly good on the road. Seattle is starting to move up a little bit. They are leading the AL West. They're starting a road trip, and, I talk about that being a positive a lot of times. You start a road trip, a lot of times you are focused for that first game. They're traveling cross-country, but I always talk about how it's easier for a West Coast team to go east than vice versa, because it's basically just like you're playing an afternoon game on your biological clock, which is easier to do. I mean, you play a lot of afternoon baseball, so throughout the season. Seattle's coming off 2 shutouts of Toronto, though, so I don't know if that would put them in any sort of letdown, but I think the scheduling spot is better for Seattle here. Now, as far as the bullpens here, they're both rested, and I think they're both pretty good bullpens. Miami's 3rd, Seattle's 16th, but their ERA is better than that. I don't think Miami is quite as good as 3rd, but they're a pretty good bullpen. And you know that, just like I said, with their offensive numbers got skewed during that road trip, their bullpen numbers also got skewed towards the negative, pitching in those stadiums. Starting pitching here, Brian Wu is pitching for Seattle, so you can see why I was thinking this could be an under here. I think Wu is better than his ERA would suggest, 4.17 ERA, but his whip is 1.03, and we've seen what he's done throughout his career so far. We know that he's good. He's gotten a little bit unlucky this year. However, Wu has been really bad on the road, a 6.38 road ERA this year. He usually does not have numbers that are this extreme. Like last year, I'm pretty sure he was worse on the road, but it wasn't this extreme. Like, that's crazy. It makes sense that he pitches better at home because it's a pitcher-friendly park, but so is Miami. So maybe he could pitch well here, even though he is bad on the road. I don't know if I quite want to jump in and back Wu on the road here. Wu was struggling a bit. He had a bad month of June, although he did have a good start last time out against Anaheim. So maybe he's rounding back into form. I'm not too concerned with him, though, just because we know what he is at this point and we know how good he is. He's got a low hit rate, low walk rate, not really a high strikeout rate, but almost 1 per inning, which I think is about what you get out of him usually. So his numbers are still pretty good here. Miami has never seen him before, so I think that does help him. I'm kind of surprised by that, but I mean, they are in different leagues. Although Wu's been around for, 3-4 years, so kind of surprised that nobody in this lineup has faced him, but that should be an extra advantage to Wu. Because I talk about when these talented pitchers go up against an offense that hasn't faced them, the pitcher tends to have the advantage. On the other side, Max Meyer is pitching, so he is Miami's best pitcher. He's been really good this year. 2.53 ERA, 1.11 whip. That's pretty good. Better at home, too. 2.13 home ERA. So he's in the better of his home road splits. He finally took a loss in Colorado, and it wasn't even his fault. That was his first loss of the season, and 4 unearned runs got scored against him. So it's like, hey, thanks, guys. Thanks for helping me out. Assuming that it wasn't him making the errors, which usually it's not the pitcher. But, yeah. So he pitched better than it looks like in that game. Meyer has been good, man. I mean, he's allowed more than 2 earned runs, more than 3 earned runs only twice all season. Let's put it that way. He's got a low hit rate, pretty low walk rate, high strikeout rate. All good numbers across the board from him. His numbers against Seattle are weird. 13 at-bats against them. They have 6 hitters who have faced him. 231 average, 5.1 strikeout walk ratio. All that sounds good. However, they do have a 978 OPS against him because Naylor and the big dumper each have a home run off him. Maybe that's a little bit concerning, but it's such a small sample size. And, I talked about how that's a little bit fluky with home runs like that. Do I think Meyer's actually going to pitch poorly here? No, I don't. So I still think the under is probably the way to look at it. I just have some concerns with it, and the money is really against it. 65% of tickets on the under, 81% of the cash on the over. So the market read is strongly indicating on the over, which doesn't make sense to me. I still think under is probably the best approach here. Again, you got offenses that might have cooled off with the rested bullpens that are both pretty good, two good starting pitchers generally, and, just a couple of concerns are Wu is really bad on the road, and Meyer has given up some power hitting to Seattle. Those are the only issues. Total is 8, which is pretty reasonable. So, yeah, I think the under is still probably the better way to play that. And I thought this was going to make my card until I started digging into the numbers, and I really didn't like it that much. And the market read is obviously against me. The money is also indicating on Miami. I don't really like that either. 56% of tickets, 90% of the cash on Miami at minus 116 or so. I don't think I like that. Meyer has been a little bit better than Wu, yes. Wu is better than his ERA suggests, though. I know his road split looks bad, but I think he might have the better matchup because he's totally unfamiliar to Miami. And Seattle has been able to have some success against Meyer. Plus, it's a really bad spot for Miami, the return home spot. Seattle's starting a road trip. So I'm going to slightly lean to Seattle in that game. And also, I think maybe their bullpen's a little bit underrated too. But that game is not making the cut for me. Houston and Washington, this game I was correct with my read yesterday. I said over in the game yesterday. I should have just given it out. It seemed obvious. Both starting pitchers were awful. Both bullpens are untrustworthy, and that game went way over the total. It was a 12-11 Washington win. Really, really ridiculous. The game was over in the third inning. The game had already gone over the total in the third inning. It was 6-6 in the third inning. I was like, yep, I should have given out the over in that one. It would have been one of the easiest wins you'll get. Washington, it was at least an opinion from me. But, a lot of times, like I said, I'll have really good opinions on the show that don't wind up making the cut for me. Washington only used one relief pitcher in that game, but they are bad in the bullpen. Houston is better, but maybe not totally trustworthy. They use 3 relief pitchers. Houston has moved up. They're 17th. They're more of a mid-tier bullpen at this point. Washington bad at 26, but, that shouldn't really detract you from maybe considering another over here. But I don't think it's as good in this game as it was yesterday. Washington is a good offense. They're 3rd. Houston 13th. Washington, I believe, plays a lot of high-scoring games at home. They give up a lot of runs at home, Washington does. This starting pitching matchup, again, this is not as monstrously ugly as it was yesterday, but this is a very unpredictable pitching matchup. Houston's going with Tatsuya Imai. This guy, dude, I think this guy is just he's just completely unpredictable. He could give you one of the best performances you've ever seen, or he could be an absolute dumpster fire, one start to the next. This guy is almost unbettable because you have no idea what's going to happen when he's on the mound. His numbers don't look good, obviously. 6.14 ERA, 1.47 WHIP. He is better on the road, 4.24 road ERA compared to 7.92 at home. He had 2 really good starts at the end of June, Cleveland and Detroit, and he just destroyed them with 21 strikeouts total and 1 walk. Then what did he do against Minnesota last time out? Yeah, he was awful. He didn't even make it out of the second inning. He walked 5 guys. How can you predict a guy like this? He's pitching like an ace 2 games in a row. The game before that, he didn't even make it out of the first inning, and he was absolute trash. And then again, he had just an absolutely horrible start against Minnesota. Yeah, what do you do with a guy like this? I have no clue. Washington's never faced him before, so he might have an advantage in that they're unfamiliar with him, but some of these offenses that haven't been familiar with him have completely roughed him up, so I have no idea what you're gonna get out of him here. Now, what I will say is his 2 really good starts there were against weak offenses, Cleveland and Detroit. Washington is not a weak offense, so I will say that. So I do lean more towards Imai not pitching well here. Andrew Alvarez is pitching for Washington. He's been okay. He's got a 3.05 ERA, but his whip suggests that he's not really that good. 1.38 whip. He's been not so good at home, 3.52 ERA at home, which, it's still not a bad ERA. What's weird is he did not make it 5 innings last time out against the Red Sox. But he got a win, so I guess he must have not started that game. I guess they must have put an opener in front of him, unless Major League Baseball changed their rules, because I'm pretty sure a starter Yeah, they put Brad Lord in front of him. That's why. Because a starter has to go 5 innings to qualify for a win. So I was like, how did he get a win in that start? It wasn't a start. That's how. Alvarez was good in that outing against the Red Sox, though. And that was a bad game. Somehow Peyton Tolley got absolutely destroyed in that game. And he's pitching today. So I'm going to talk about him in a little bit. But Alvarez, I mean, he's been okay, but he doesn't go deep into games. And again, obviously, because they put an opener in front of him before, they might put an opener in front of him. They might put an opener in him. Oh God, in front of him again in this game. So be aware of that. That if you're going to play this game, you should probably pick Imai must start, but don't select a Washington starter because it will be Alvarez, but they may put an opener in front of him. Would be my assumption here. He's been pitching okay though, but he goes like 4 innings basically typically. So he has not gone 5 innings in any appearance this season. He's got a mediocre hit rate. His walk rate is not really that good. Strikeout rate is pretty good though. He does strike out a decent amount of guys. So he does have some stuff that can fool hitters. Houston has never really seen him except for Nick Allen, who's 0 for 1 with a walk against him. Again, this is a very, very unpredictable matchup, though. I know both pitchers do have, both pitchers have unfamiliarity here. I'm not sure that's going to be enough. I still probably lean over. I mean, this series just feels like it's going to be an over series, although yesterday's was just, I should have given it out as a play. Yesterday's was just more obviously an over to me, but sometimes the obvious is not the way that you want to go. 61% of tickets, 87% of the cash on the over. But yeah, if it's too obvious, that might mean, like if it looks too easy, it usually is. You know what I mean? Like I gave out some obvious unders that didn't happen recently. Although that Mizurowski one that I mentioned at the top of the show, that was a bullshit loss. We should have had that under in that one. Anyway, yeah, the money's coming in on the over. The total's at 9, so it's right on that key number 9. I still think I'd probably lean that way. Money is coming in on Washington, 66% of tickets, 77% of the cash on Washington at about minus 118 or so. I think if you play Washington, you should probably avoid their bullpen, though, because their bullpen, obviously, we know is not very good at all. So maybe Washington first 5. You can take Alvarez to outpitch Imai or Alvarez plus their opener or whatever to outpitch him. I don't know, man. I think over makes the most sense in that game, but it's a really difficult game to figure out. Kansas City and the Mets. Now, these teams both played yesterday, but the Mets are returning home from a road trip where they went to Toronto and Atlanta, and they beat Atlanta the last 2 games in dramatic fashion, including doing it yesterday in extra innings. This looks like a bad spot to me for the Mets. That was a huge win for them yesterday in extra innings. Dramatic win. Now they return home from a road trip on top of that with no days off. So, I talk about the road trip return being a distraction, whatever. And they're playing an American League team and one of the worst, Kansas City. Yeah, this is not a good spot for the Mets. The Mets are also going with a bullpen game, I'm pretty sure, because I looked back through the rotation, and it was supposed to be whoever was next up in the rotation, they already used. Like they've been using guys on short rest. Like they moved Nolan McLean up in the rotation. I think maybe because they had an extra day off in there somewhere. So McLean pitched a day before he was actually supposed to. So I think the Mets might be going with a bullpen game here, which of course looks worse even, although their bullpen isn't really that bad. But we do have to look at the rest scenario here. The Mets did use a ton of relief pitchers yesterday because, again, that was an extra inning game. They used 6 relief pitchers. So even though their bullpen's pretty good, that's not a good sign. Their better relievers won't be available here. That's not good. Kansas City, though, they just don't have a good bullpen. Kansas City used 3 relief pitchers yesterday. Kansas City, by the way, they're starting a road trip, which normally I would say that's a good spot. That's a focus spot. But Kansas City just had a ridiculous win yesterday. They absolutely unloaded on Christopher Sanchez yesterday and won the game 15-1. My opinion in that game was to go over the total. If you remember my analysis of that, Sanchez actually had bad numbers against the Royals, and he's not as good on the road. But did I expect Sanchez to give up like 9 runs in 3 innings? No, obviously I didn't. So Kansas City, that was a big win for them, man. Beating, a Cy Young contender and just absolutely drilling him like that. Kansas City might be in a little bit of a letdown too. However, I think the spot is clearly worse for the Mets because it's a return home spot, plus coming off a huge rivalry win. So the spot's worse for the Mets, plus it's a bullpen game, plus their bullpen is used up. None of that looks good. Although I'd still avoid Kansas City's bullpen here. Mets are number 4 in bullpen. I think they're good, but maybe not that good. Kansas City is dead last in bullpen, although their ERA is a little bit better than Minnesota's, but they're bad, really bad. Offensively, Kansas City's 20th, tied with Philly. Hilarious. And the Mets are 28th, tied with Cleveland. Not good. So neither offense has really been that good. Kansas City's offensive numbers really, really drop on the road. Kansas City, at least we know who's starting for them, Seth Lugo. So when I did all my analysis for this, I was leaning fairly strongly in the direction of the Royals in this game, but I don't want their bullpen. With Lugo, I mean, Lugo is okay. 4.2 ERA and 1.38 whip is not great. He isn't as good on the road, though. So even with Kauffman Stadium's walls being moved in, he's still pitching better at home. He's got a 4.73 road ERA. He's been pitching okay, I guess. Well, I don't know. His last start was good against Tampa Bay. That's a decent sign, but he was bad against Tampa Bay the start before that. Really didn't have a good month of June at all. So I don't really know what to think about Lugo right now. And, of course, the advanced analytics guys don't like him. And I'm not using advanced analytics, but even I could see that his numbers really aren't that good. His hit rate is too high. His walk rate is not really that great. And his strikeout rate is low. So I don't really like what I see with these numbers, really. But then I was thinking, well, he's pitching against the Mets, though. Like, that should be a pretty good matchup for him, right? Not necessarily. They have 28 at-bats against him. They do only have 4 guys who have faced him. But they have 7 strikeouts, 8 walks, a 250 average, and 774 OPS. So they have gotten to Lugo a little bit, but what I will say is that pretty much all of that is Juan Soto, though. He's 5 for 19 with a home run and 6 of the walks. So a lot of their lineup is unfamiliar to Lugo, and if he could pitch around Soto, he should pitch well enough here, in my opinion. So I do think that Lugo should have a decent matchup here. Plus, he's going up against a Met bullpen game, I think, which probably won't go well. So I still think the way to play this game is to take the Royals in the first 5. And I considered this. I almost put it on my card. The money is backing the Mets with an undecided starter. And it's not going to be Minaya because he pitched 2 days ago. So I don't know what they're going to do here. 59% of tickets, 88% of the cash on the Mets. It's crazy to me that the money seems to be backing the Mets right now. It might change as the day goes on. So that's the thing. I rely mostly on my handicapping more than the market read, although I use the market read as kind of a guide. And I do like it if the market matches up with what I'm saying, you know. The Mets are favored at minus 150 something, which is crazy. Like, I know the Mets are better than the record looks, and obviously the odds makers are telling you that. But like, should the Mets really be favored by that amount, even against a bad Kansas City team, when you don't even know who their starting pitcher is going to be, and it's not going to be Nolan McLean, and they're in a return home spot off a huge win against a dramatic extra innings win? Yeah, I just don't see it, man. I think Kansas City is the right way to look here. I would play Kansas City in the first 5. I think you could take them plus a half run in the first 5. That's what I would do in this game. Avoid their bullpen. But Kansas City plus a half run in the first 5, that was one of the ones that I liked better on this board, actually. So, and if you do that, you're going to pick Lugo must start, but obviously you can't pick a starter for the Mets. So it'll be action on that side. But I think that's the way to play that game right now. Garrett, what's up? No, I don't do it. I'm too selective. I don't want to splash the board like that. You don't want to have that much variance, you know what I mean? Like, you do not want to put yourself in a spot where you could potentially lose like 10 grand in a single day, you know what I mean? Like, you want to have like at most maybe like a couple grand on the line in one day if you're betting sort of the amounts that I do, which is betting to win 300 a game. So yeah, I mean, I recommend against that, but it's still good that, my thoughts are correct on a lot of these games. I'm going to have to take a break soon. My voice is still killing me here, but I usually do it with 5 games left to go. I think one more game and then I'll do it maybe, because I already talked about this doubleheader, which we still don't even know who's going to pitch in the second game there with Milwaukee and St. Louis. So if you go to the top of the show, I talked about the doubleheader, but it's really, really difficult to figure out anything that's going on in that series. All right, so I'm going to do two more games, I guess, and then I'll take a break. Philadelphia at Cincinnati. Philadelphia is at a rest disadvantage because they played yesterday, but they got blasted by Kansas City, and it was an afternoon game, so that will help them out a little bit. But Cincinnati didn't play yesterday, and they're staying at home. So even though it could be a bounce-back spot for Philadelphia, by the way, is pretty good on the road. They're above 500 on the road. Cincinnati's below 500 at home. But Cincinnati has the rest advantage, and they're staying at home. So Cincinnati does have some advantages here. They do not have a bullpen advantage, and if the starting pitching is correct on ESPN here, they do not have a starting pitching edge either. Although when I looked earlier, it was undecided for Philly. Yeah, Philly is undecided right now, so that makes it way more difficult. Although you can play this game right now, and the fact that Philly is favored at like minus 170 something, that tells me that it is expected to still be Wheeler pitching in this game. So do with that info what you want, but they haven't officially decided that yet. But based on the number that's on Philly here, I think it is going to be Wheeler here. So as far as the bullpens here, Philly used 4 relief pitchers yesterday, so they do have a bullpen rest disadvantage here, but Cincinnati's bullpen is pretty unbackable at 28th. Although Philly has been bad recently out of the bullpen, they're all the way down to 18th, and they're unrested, so the bullpen advantage I think Philly would normally have here is not very pronounced at the very least. Offensively, neither team has been that good. Philly is 20th, Cincinnati 24th. That's not good. Philadelphia presumably is still going with Zach Wheeler here. He's been really good. 2.36 ERA, 0.94 WHIP. Started the season late because he was coming off an injury, but he picked back up right where he left off. Really good stuff. Really good on the road. 2.03 road ERA. Wasn't that good against Pittsburgh last time. He still had 10 strikeouts and 1 walk in 4 2/3 innings, though. But he gave up 9 hits and 4 earned runs. So I don't know what happened in that game because he was striking a bunch of guys out, but he also allowed a lot of hits. Very weird pitching line there. But if you throw that game out, he's been really good otherwise. He's gone, I think, at least 5 and 2/3 innings in all of his other outings, except for his first one where they limited him to 5 innings. He's given up more than 3 earned runs only one other time. He's given up more than 2 earned runs only 3 times. Really low hit rate, low walk rate as well. Pretty high strikeout rate. Good numbers across the board. His numbers against, I already forget who we're talking about again. I don't know why my mind works this way. I never remember who the opponent is after I dive into the starting pitcher, which sounds gay. Yes, he does have good numbers against the Reds in 69 at bats, also possibly gay. 188 batting average allowed, 558 OPS. 20-6 strikeout walk ratio. All those numbers are good. He definitely has the upper hand against Cincinnati's bats. So if Wheeler is pitching, I think he should do well. Andrew Abbott looks like he is getting the start for the Reds. He's got a good ERA, 3.88, but his whip is not good, 1.44. He's got some walk issues, man. He's been fairly good in previous seasons, but his walk numbers have become more of an issue this year. He's not good at home, 4.75 home ERA, and it is a hitter-friendly ballpark. His walk rate has been really bad over the last month. His strikeout rate has actually been okay, and he hasn't allowed that many runs. So he's somehow escaping these games, but he's walking way too many guys, dude. You cannot put this many guys on base and keep getting away with it. So that is a problem. He's got a reasonably low hit rate on the season. His walk rate is obviously too high. That's one of his major concerns. His home runs are a little bit of a concern as well. He is a bit of a fly ball heavy pitcher, which doesn't play that well in Cincinnati Stadium either. And he's not really a strikeout pitcher. He has a pretty low strikeout rate. So he's obviously the lesser of the pitchers if Wheeler is pitching. Abbott against Philly, not good numbers, and 70 at bats. It's a big sample. They have a 300 average and 836 OPS and 11.6 strikeout walk ratio against them. So none of those numbers are good. So I do not want to back Andrew Abbott here, man. I know Cincinnati has the rest advantage here, but If it's going to be Wheeler on the mound, I mean, I think Philly probably gets this game, especially after they got embarrassed yesterday. And at least they had a little bit of extra time to travel because they played in the afternoon yesterday. Minus 170 is the price right now. That seems to indicate Wheeler's pitching. Like I said, 82% of tickets, 88% of the cash on Philly. They're public, but it looks like they might be getting some of the money. Money is heavily indicating towards the over 9 here. So given all that, and we're not really totally sure if Wheeler is going to pitch here, Philly over their team total makes some sense to me. And I think because they played yesterday, right, and they actually didn't do well offensively yesterday, their offense, their bats might like stay in rhythm because they don't have a day off. And they should be able to tee off on Abbott based on the matchup numbers we just saw. Plus, Cincinnati's bullpen is not good. So I think Philly over their team total makes some sense here, but you're going to need them to score 5 or 6 runs if you do that. They certainly can do that, though. My Boston Red Sox are going to the White Sox here. The Battle of the Sox. This game is, both teams are rested. Neither team played yesterday. Red Sox are having to come in from Anaheim, though, so they are having to travel across multiple time zones. But like I said, it's easier to do that going west to east than the opposite. So at least there is that. Because you're just playing earlier. It's sort of like an early evening game, which is easier to do than a late night game. The White Sox just took 2 out of 4 against Cleveland. They won the last 2 games. Those were big games, and they're returning home from a road trip. So the spot is more negative for the White Sox, even though they're staying in the central time zone here after playing Cleveland. That was a big divisional series, dude. White Sox and Cleveland, they're both fighting for the division lead right now, with hilariously Minnesota not that far behind. I still would not count Detroit out now that Scubo's back and whatever. But anyway, those are big wins for the White Sox, plus returning home from a road trip. Tends to be kind of a negative spot. Possible that maybe they slightly overlook the Red Sox because the Red Sox are not having a good season. Red Sox are actually favored on the road, so the odds makers are respecting the Red Sox here. Maybe the White Sox still get up, though, because, I mean, this is a kind of a matchup of classic teams, you know, teams that have big market cities and whatever. So Red Sox have kind of become a, you know, not as big of a market team, though, recently. Red Sox did just sweep Anaheim over the weekend and then had yesterday off, which was definitely good for them because they played the Sunday night game. So if they had to turn around and play yesterday, it would have been a pretty bad spot. Luckily for them, they did not have to do that. I think the Red Sox probably set up a little bit better here, and probably their pitching is more trustworthy. Red Sox, well, both teams have a rested bullpen. The Red Sox are the better bullpen. They're the 3rd best bullpen ERA in baseball right now, and number 5 based on WHIP, tied with the Mets in WHIP. So they should be ahead of the Mets, actually, in that ranking because their ERA is way better. So they're 4th, actually, in this ranking. Whatever. They're better than the White Sox. They're mediocre. White Sox are 20th. White Sox are an okay bullpen. Hitting-wise, the White Sox are obviously the better team. They're at 8th. The Red Sox have gotten better recently, and they're better on the road, but they're 23rd right now. Red Sox are going with Peyton Tolley, who's going to need to bounce back. Like I said, he's been good on the season, though. 3.39 ERA, 1.12 WHIP. That's pretty good stuff. He's been basically the same home and away. Really doesn't matter. He wasn't good last time at home against Washington, though. So he was pitching better at home, and that skewed his numbers. Now, maybe that's not a good sign because Washington's a good offense, but so is the White Sox. But Tolley, I think he was in a personal letdown spot because if you look what he did the previous game, he took like a no-hitter into the 5th or 6th inning against the Yankees. He really did well against the Yankees. Obviously, he got way up emotionally for that game. So I think he was in a letdown spot, so I think he bounces back at least to some extent here because that Washington start was way worse than all of his other starts. He hadn't allowed more than 4 earned runs in any other start on the season. He's allowed more than 3 only twice, including that last start. He's got a low hit rate. His walk rate is slightly high, I guess. Strikeout rate is right at 1 per inning. I know the White Sox are going to be a pretty formidable opponent, but they're also unfamiliar with him. Grichuk is the only hitter who's faced him. 0 for 2 with a strikeout and no walks. I think Tolley should bounce back here and pitch better. Generally, he's good, and he's unfamiliar to the White Sox, so he should have that advantage. And on the other side, this makes this a matchup of very tall left-handers in this one. Noah Schultz is pitching for the White Sox. I like him, and he's actually only like a year younger than Peyton Tolley, even though Peyton Tolley looks like he could be his father because Tolley aged himself like 20 years just by growing a mustache. But they're almost the same age. Schultz has not really been as good, but I think the White Sox might have rushed him up a little bit. I think Schultz has some talent, man. He's got a pretty good pitch arsenal. He's a tall lefty, and his stuff is hard to pick up for hitters, but he's not been really successful, though, so far. 5.86 ERA, 1.35 whip. He's been a little bit better at home, 4.91 home ERA. But if you dig into this a little bit, obviously the walks are his huge issue. Like, offenses have not been hitting him well, but his walks have been a problem. He either got injured or they sent him to the minors. I'm not sure which happened here. He came back and he didn't pitch that well against Baltimore last time out. He walked 4 guys in 4 1/3 innings. So again, the walks have been an issue for him. Although he had 7 strikeouts and only 2 hits allowed, but he gave up 3 earned runs. Overall, he's got a low hit rate, so he is difficult to hit, but his walk rate is enormous. His walk rate is way too high, and his strikeout rate is decent. So yeah, I think he's a good pitcher, but it's, again, very common case where you get this young guy that comes up, and very similar to Randy Johnson in that he's really tall, a lefty, and he's having major control issues early in his career. He isn't Randy Johnson, though. He doesn't throw as hard of a fastball as Randy Johnson, though. Schultz, I think, throws like mid-90s, but I think his best pitcher, if I remember correct, his best pitch, if I remember correctly, is like a sinker that like drops really hard down out of the zone. And, of course, the Red Sox have never faced him, so he does have an advantage there against the Red Sox. However, both pitchers have that unfamiliarity edge. I'm going to lean to the Red Sox here because I think it is a better spot for them with the White Sox returning home from the road. Tolley has established himself so far better than Schultz has. Money seems to agree. 72% of tickets, 94% of the cash on the Red Sox. They're favored, even though they have the lesser record. I think the public is going to have a tendency to kind of shy away from the Red Sox because why would you want to lay a favorite price with the team that has the worst offense and the worst record, right, on the road? So even though it does look like they're getting some public ticket percentage here, I don't think the public is really going to back the Red Sox here, even though I guess they'll look at the pitchers' ERAs and like totally better for that reason. But the public likes offenses, and obviously the White Sox have been the better offense, and they have the better record. So I think the public is going to maybe think that there's value on the White Sox, and it looks pretty strange that the Red Sox are a road favorite here. So I think the odds makers are kind of signaling something with that. I'm not being biased about it. As a Red Sox fan, I mean, if anything, I'm biased negatively towards the Red Sox because they suck so bad that, but obviously the odds makers continue to tell you the Red Sox are not as bad as they look. They do have good pitching, and yeah, minus 120 something is the price. You'll also get the bullpen advantage if you play the Red Sox there. So probably that is the better way to play it, is Red Sox money line. The money's backing the over slightly, 73% of tickets, 87% of the cash on the over. I would lean under, probably even full game. I mean, the White Sox bullpen isn't really one that you really need to avoid. And, we have both teams rested yesterday. So, I talk about how that can cool off the hitting. The bullpens get rested. Total at 8.5. Red Sox don't really hit that well, though, again, they do hit better on the road, and they've been hitting better recently. White Sox do have a good offense, but still, I think we have a pitching matchup that might lend itself to a lower scoring game. Both pitchers with unfamiliarity here. And the bullpens, I think, are at least decent. Red Sox, I would say, are good. So an under makes some... My first thought, actually, when I saw that pitching matchup was potentially an under in that one. So do what you want with that. I'll be right back. I'll talk about the remaining 5 games here. I'm going to have a play in the WNBA and in the World Cup when I come back. So I have one play in each sport, and I think the Cubs play that I gave out, I think is the worst of all of them. I'll be right back. Yep, inside, I want to kill myself. We are on an 0-7 run over the last 2 days. After tonight, it was just complete bullshit. So that's how I'm going to start off this show. Horrible Sunday, 1-5. I don't even know what to tell you about that. I just don't want to do this anymore. I have never seen anything like this, man. With The slump continuing. 2 straight losses. Not a good day at all. 0-4. I just have not had a good season, man. What can this slump that I'm on? The slump continues. I've reached a new peak, actually. I'm going to burn my Bruins hat, man. I don't know what is going on with the Bruins. March 8th. Is that what it is? I don't even know. It's March 9th, I think. Who even knows, man? I don't know what day it is anymore. I don't even know what day it is anymore, man. Back with you after the worst day that I could possibly have. Back with you, as I always am. Until I die, at least. 0-2 yesterday. And yesterday did not go well for me. 0-5. The worst month that I've ever had in my 18 years doing this. I don't know what to even tell you about this anymore. Broke the slump yesterday as the slump discontinues. The slump continues. Somebody fucking kill me, please. I don't even know what I should do at this point other than potentially end it all. All right. The next game here, Cleveland and Minnesota. Minnesota, I think, is in a bad spot. They're returning home from a road trip where they beat Houston and the Yankees. So, bad spot for Minnesota, in my opinion. Coming back from a road trip. Could be a letdown after beating the Yankees twice in somewhat blowout fashion, too. However, they're facing Cleveland, who's ahead of them in the AL Central here. It's a big divisional series, so Minnesota can't really afford to be totally distracted here. Even though usually the return home spot is a distracted spot, they might still show up and pay attention to Cleveland. Cleveland should show up as well because they're not really that far ahead of Minnesota, and Cleveland did just lose the last 2 games to the White Sox, like I said. But that was a big series, though, so maybe they will be a little bit hungover after a big series against the White Sox. But on the other hand, it could be a positive for Cleveland, too, because they're starting a road trip. Usually you're focused when you start a road trip. So I don't know which way this is going to go, but you know that I usually default to the team that's starting the road trip against a team that's returning home from a road trip. I tend to want to go with that team starting the road trip. I'd fade the team returning home, so that would have me looking towards Cleveland in this game. Neither team played yesterday, I don't believe. Cleveland has the better bullpen. They are, where are they? They're somewhere in the middle here. They are 15th, yeah, right in the middle. They're decent bullpen. Minnesota's is horrible. They're 29th. You could make the argument they're the worst. So they're not a good bullpen. Minnesota is the better offense at 7th. Cleveland has been bad. 28th, tied with the Mets. Not good. Still waiting on some of their injured players to come back, too, I think. Cleveland's going with Joey Cantillo here. Kind of tough to gauge the starting pitching matchup. Cantillo, 3.86 ERA is pretty good. 1.36 whip is not that good. He's not as good on the road. 4.27 road ERA. He walked 5 guys in his last outing against Texas. That's not great. Texas, not the greatest offense here. And Cantillo has some command issues here. Looking at his numbers on the season, he does have a low hit rate, but his walks have been an issue. His strikeout rate is pretty good. But yeah, the walks are his huge issue. Cantillo would actually be a pretty decent pitcher if he stopped walking people. Against Minnesota, they have 42 at-bats against him, and Cantillo has actually had the upper hand against them. Even though Minnesota actually does hit pretty well at home, but 238 batting average allowed, 629 OPS, 17-5 strikeout walk ratio. Cantillo's got pretty good numbers here against Minnesota, so he does look like he matches up pretty well. Taj Bradley is going for Minnesota. He started to pitch better again recently. He's a guy I can't figure out, dude. Like, I gave out a couple of plays on him when he wasn't pitching well. He pitched well at the beginning of the season. He struggled when he was with Tampa Bay, but I always looked at his numbers and thought, I mean, this guy has strikeout stuff, so he's got some talent here. He's got decent numbers this year, 3.86 ERA, 1.29 whip. It's a little high, but it's not that bad. He's been better at home, 3.58 home ERA, so the home road splits are in his favor. And again, he's pitched well recently. His last few starts have all been pretty good, although his walk rate is still a little bit high. Had a lot of strikeouts last time, had 11 strikeouts against Houston in 5 innings. That's pretty good, so he is fooling some batters right now. He's got a high strikeout rate on the season, a pretty low hit rate. His walk rate is a little bit high, so again, that's really the main issue with him is the walks, because the rest of his numbers are pretty good. He's kind of hard to hit. He strikes out a lot of guys. That's all pretty good. His numbers against Cleveland are actually not good. In 19 at-bats, you know what? I think I might, should I add this to my card? 368 average allowed, 926 OPS, that's bad. 8-to-1 strikeout walk ratio. I don't know, man. In only 19 at-bats, it's a small sample, but let me see what the market is doing here. Market is on Minnesota right now at minus 116 or so. 53% of tickets, 67% of the cash on them, and money backing the over 8.5 for whatever that's worth. I like Cleveland in this game, man. I got those matchup numbers correct with Cantillo, right? Let me see. Plus, it's a return home spot. I'm considering adding this play. Hold on. Let me see. Cantillo. Yeah. Let me look at what Action Network has to say about this. Because this is a better situation than the one that I gave out on the Cubs, I think. Twins, where are you at? Yeah, Action Network seems to kind of be signaling that way. And also kind of agreeing with the Cubs. Signaling towards Cleveland, I mean, and the Cubs. You know what? Cleveland's got the better bullpen, too, so this is going to be a full game play. You can find it at even money out there, or a price that's pretty close to that. Yeah, all right. I'm going to add a second play. A lot of times I get screwed by adding these extra plays, but let's add Cleveland as a play here. There you go. Cleveland plus 100. Although, again, I know Minnesota maybe isn't going to be totally distracted because Cleveland's ahead of them in the standings. Cleveland, I know, is coming off a big series, but still, I like the team starting a road trip against the team that's returning home from one. So let's go with Cleveland there. Plus, I think the pitching matchup works out that way too. So if that wasn't the case, I would not do it. Next game up, I already talked about the doubleheader with Milwaukee, St. Louis. Go look at the top of the show for that. Not much to say because we don't know who's pitching in the second game. I will say one thing, though. If McGreevy does not pitch in game one for St. Louis, I am almost 100% sure that he is starting for St. Louis in game two if he doesn't pitch in game one. So I will say that. For Milwaukee, let me look at what they've done. We might be able to predict who they're starting here. Woodruff is back on the DL, though. So, Mizurowski, when did Harrison last pitch? No, he pitched too recently, basically, on the third. So, yeah, I don't know what Milwaukee's going to do in their second game there because they don't have that many options with Woodruff hurt again and whatever's going on. So, I don't know. Anyway, Anaheim, Texas. On the surface, I thought I was going to give out an under on this game. This really, really looks like it's an under to me, but I have one reason why I'm not doing it pretty much. But I still like the under here, and this looks like it should be an under. Both teams are off yesterday. The game's in Texas, and you know I like Texas unders in Texas, so the last time I gave one out, it didn't happen, which pisses me off, but they play low-scoring games at home. Total is low in this game, but I always talk about how it's low for a reason. Now, with both teams being off yesterday, I think that should cool off the offenses a little bit. Anaheim's coming in, starting a road trip after getting swept by the Red Sox and swept by Seattle prior to that, but that was on the road. But still, coming off a bunch of losses, the Angels should be in the more focused spot here. So maybe the Angels are maybe a way to look in this game, actually, believe it or not. Although Texas is just staying at home, so it's not a return home spot for Texas. Both bullpens are rested, but Anaheim's bullpen is still not really backable. They're not good at 23rd. Texas is the better bullpen at 10th, although they've struggled a little bit recently and gotten on my bad side with some of those underplays there. Texas, not a great offense at 18th, tied with Detroit. Anaheim is 22nd. They've really struggled, although I think they're actually better on the road. Anaheim's going with, speaking of better on the road, Anaheim is going with Jose Soriano. 3.42 ERA for him. 1.32 whip is not that good. He gets too wild, but he is good on the road. Last year and this year, he's better on the road. So when you back him, you usually want to back him on the road. 2.91 road ERA. That's pretty good. He pitched well in his last start, but it was at Seattle. Pitcher-friendly park, but he did well, so maybe he is kind of returning back into form here. He's kind of a streaky pitcher in a way, but usually I think you want to go with this home road splits typically and fade him at home and back him on the road, usually, except when I faded him on the road at the A's stadium, but that was a completely different scenario, and we got the over easily in that one correct. Now, Soriano's difficult to hit. He's allowed very few hits. His walk rate is too high. His strikeout rate is also high. And he induces a lot of ground balls. So he's got a lot of talent. He could definitely fool major league hitters. His problem is that he gets wild. He's got to get his walk number down. His numbers, don't worry, those are against the Red Sox. Red Sox were able to sweep Anaheim in Anaheim without having to face Soriano. So there you go. But against Texas, he does have good numbers against Texas. 226 average, allowed 595 OPS and 53 at bats, 14-5 strikeout walk ratio. So that's pretty good. So Soriano does well on the road and does well against Texas. I think he has a good matchup here. The problem with the under for me is actually Jacob deGrom, believe it or not. deGrom's been good, 3.48 ERA, 0.99 WHIP. At his old age, he's still pitching effectively. He's been really good at home, 2.38 home ERA. It is a very pitcher-friendly stadium here. He's been pitching well recently. He's in good form. Had pretty much a really good month of June here. Low hit rate, low walk rate, high strikeout rate. All of his numbers are good, except he allows too many home runs because he's a fly ball heavy pitcher. But obviously, pitching in Texas's home stadium can knock those balls down. Sounds pretty gay. You know what my problem is going to be, though. Believe it or not, he does not do well against Anaheim. In 54 at-bats, 315 average, allowed 1,003 OPS. That is not good. 16-5 strikeout walk ratio, that's fine. But the rest of these numbers definitely worry me. So looking at this game, I still lean under. I mean, the full game is 7, but I think you can't really back Anaheim's bullpen. So I think a first 5 under still makes sense, but I don't really want to do it, especially deGrom with bad matchup numbers. Plus, the number that you're going to get is going to be like 3.5, which is, I'll do it sometimes, but it is a little bit iffy, and I really don't want to do it here. But I still think I do lean that way towards the under 3.5 in the first 5. Money is backing the over, though. 71% of tickets, 90% of the cash on the over. I mean, it makes more sense to go full game if you're going to really do an over here because you want Anaheim's bullpen included in that. Total is 7, so it is really low. And again, I always talk about, it's low for a reason. It's expected to be a low-scoring game. The money is also backing Anaheim, and I actually do agree with that. 84% of tickets, 70% of the cash on Texas. They're a public side, so I think there are a lot of things that go into that. I think Anaheim's in a positive spot, like a focus spot, starting a road trip. Just get out of home when everything's going bad for you. They hit better on the road. Soriano's better on the road, and Soriano has a better matchup here. deGrom is better at home, but he's got bad matchup numbers. And you're going to pay a price for deGrom, minus 160-something here. That's a pretty high price, given that Soriano could definitely battle, at least, in this game. So I think the price is too high on Texas. I think maybe that is actually the better way to play this game, is to play Anaheim in the first 5. Take a half run on the spread with Anaheim in the first 5. You might be able to get that one done, given what that pitching matchup is. So I think that would be maybe the way I would actually lean there, where I started out thinking an under in that game. All right, Arizona, San Diego. San Diego lost the game yesterday. It was a return home spot, plus they were coming up beating the Dodgers, so it wasn't a great spot for San Diego. They lost 8-0, but I talk about when a team loses in the return home spot, a lot of times they bounce back in the next game, and if a team loses badly and they get shut out at home, a lot of times they bounce back in the next game after that too. So it is a bounce back spot for San Diego here. San Diego should have the better bullpen. They did get a little bit of rest yesterday, at least. They only used 2 guys out of the bullpen yesterday, so at least that should help them a little bit. Arizona's bullpen, I think, is the lesser of the two. They used 2 guys out of the bullpen as well. Arizona is ranked 6th, and their ERA is not really that bad right now. I still think they're more of like a mid-tier bullpen, though, and San Diego is ranked 13th, but I still think they're like a top 5 bullpen. They've just had some struggles recently, but a lot of it is because they've just not had rest. And now they're a little bit more rested. San Diego, we know their offense hasn't been good. They're dead last, 30th, but Arizona's 26th, which is not much better. Arizona's going with Zach Gallen here. He is not doing well. 6.36 ERA, 1.57 WHIP. That is really bad. He's worse on the road, too. 6.95 road ERA. Not pitching well. Really not much to like about Gallen at all. He's not been pitching well recently either. high hit rate, low walk rate, so at least there's that. He doesn't walk people, but his strikeout rate is really low, too. He's not fooling anybody. One thing that you might be able to say is, well, he's going to be in a pitcher-friendly ballpark here in San Diego, so that should help, right, against a weak offense. And he did pitch against San Diego at home earlier this year. He only went 3 innings in that outing, but he was good. He gave up 1 hit and had a clean sheet otherwise if we're in soccer mode. 3 strikeouts, no walks there. His numbers are actually not good overall against San Diego, though. On 148 at-bats, 250 average, 806 OPS, 37 strikeouts, 15 walks. That's a lot of walks. So he doesn't do well against San Diego typically. San Diego is listed as undecided here, but on the board they have listed German Marquez, which I know that doesn't look good. Marquez is not a good pitcher, but we got to kind of put this into context here. Marquez pitched most of his career with Colorado. So, pitching for Colorado does not tell you who a pitcher is. Literally his entire career until this year was with Colorado. And, yeah, his numbers haven't been that good. A couple of years actually were pretty good for Colorado there. Although, yeah, I mean, he's still actually not even that old. He's 31. With San Diego, you got to figure that he's going to start pitching better at some point in this much more pitcher-friendly stadium. I know his numbers are not good so far. 5.79 ERA, 1.47 WHIP. He's been really bad at home, which makes no sense. 10.38 home ERA. I still think that's going to turn around, though, man. I don't know what the deal is with that. You look at his numbers. His hit rate is slightly high. His walk rate is definitely too high, so that's not good. His strikeout rate is low. I know there's not a lot to like here with these numbers, but I think Marquez might be able to do okay in this matchup. I mean, I think at some point he's going to start pitching a little bit better than this, especially in San Diego Stadium. He's got 128 at-bats against Arizona, and he's actually had the upper hand against them. 227 average, 709 OPS. I know that's not low, but it's still below that 750 threshold. His strikeout walk numbers are not that good, though. 23 to 14, that's not good. And, his numbers are still bad enough across the board that I don't really want to back him, but I think I would lean towards San Diego in this game, though. I think they do have a couple of edges here, and they're favored. Marquez being favored does seem kind of ridiculous. So, do you really want to back Marquez as a favorite? I don't know, but I think you will get a bullpen advantage and a situational advantage, and I think he has the better matchup numbers over Gallen. I mean, Gallen has been really bad. So I lean San Diego here. They're around minus 120 here. Maybe that price is a little bit too high. 58% of tickets, 73% of the cash on Arizona, though. So the money's backing Arizona. Money's also backing the over 8.5. I wouldn't really disagree with the over. I mean, it still looks like it's a pretty shitty pitching matchup here between, two starters who are not very good. So, the over does still make some sense in that one. And it's, an 8.5. It's almost 9, which is pretty high for San Diego total. All right, Toronto and San Francisco. San Francisco won again yesterday, even though they were returning over from a road trip. They won 10-1. But I showed you, I think it was Kevin Gausman. Gausman had really bad numbers against San Francisco. So I told you I did not like the matchup for him. Maybe this will be a bounce back for Toronto, but we don't even know who Toronto's starting for their pitcher here. I went back 5 games to try to figure that out, and I believe it's a bullpen game. I'm pretty sure. 5 games ago, Toronto went with a bullpen game, so I'm pretty sure they're going with a bullpen game here with Miles and a couple of those other guys pitching. So do what you want with that info. I don't know if that's great, but Toronto used 2 relief pitchers yesterday. San Francisco used 1. San Francisco's bullpen has struggled recently, though. They were good yesterday for the, just that one short stint, but they're not good this year. 24th, that's not good. Toronto's been the better bullpen at 11th, so I'll give Toronto a bit of a bullpen edge here. San Francisco has had the better offense at 12th. Toronto is 27th. I keep saying it, but I still don't think San Francisco is this good offensively. They got a good matchup yesterday, and their numbers are being skewed by some big offensive outputs in some of these stadiums that are very hitter-conducive. I still think their offense is going to drop back down, having some of these home games here. I don't know if it'll be today against Toronto's bullpen game. Maybe it will be. San Francisco's going with Trevor McDonald. He's fallen off recently. I'm pretty sure. He's got a 4.42 ERA. His whip is not that bad, though, 1.23. He's been worse at home, which makes no sense. 5.88 home ERA. Again, San Francisco's a pitcher-friendly park, but he did pitch well in his last outing. It was on the road at Arizona. He's 6 innings shutout, 1 hit them with no walks and 5 strikeouts. So maybe McDonald is returning to form a little bit here. McDonald was pretty good for San Francisco last year, but he had a really, really bad month of June. So I don't know what to make of that last start against Arizona. Their offense isn't really that good, but neither is Toronto. McDonald has a pretty low hit rate. His walk rate's not too bad, and his strikeout rate is not really great, but it's all right. And Toronto's never seen him before, so McDonald probably does have a little bit of an edge there, in that he's unfamiliar to Toronto. Do I want to back San Francisco? No. The money's actually backing Toronto. 51% of tickets, 93% of the cash on Toronto. Strong market read there. And Toronto's minus 115 or so, even though we don't even know who's pitching for them. And it's likely to be a bullpen game, and yet Toronto's still favored. That's what the odds makers think of San Francisco, man. The odds makers are telling you San Francisco is not good. And their record is also not good. But yeah, they're getting really disrespected in the market, but the money is backing Toronto. Total is low at 7.5. So again, the odds makers expecting San Francisco is not going to do much offensive damage here. Money is backing the over, though. I don't know what to do with this game. It's a difficult game to figure out. The money is saying Toronto pretty strongly. I'm not going to back a Toronto bullpen game. I'm not going to fade a pitcher who's maybe starting to do better again, who's unfamiliar to the opposing offense. I'm just not going to do that. And then we have Colorado and the Dodgers. This looks like it should be a pretty big edge for the Dodgers. Dodgers barely won yesterday. They had to win in the 11th inning yesterday. But I talk about this. It could be like a zigzag type of thing where the Dodgers kind of get scared back into focus, right? Because the Dodgers, as the way better team, should not have almost lost to Colorado. So the fact that they did might give them a scare and have them focus a little bit more in this game. And it could be a hangover for Colorado because Colorado almost pulled off the upset against the Dodgers. Maybe Colorado will be less good in this game for that reason. Colorado's been competitive against the Dodgers this year, though, man. So there is that. They've played them pretty tough. Dodgers may just continuously overlook them, though. And maybe in this game they won't because of what happened yesterday. Dodgers used 4 relief pitchers in that game. Colorado also did. Colorado, obviously, the lesser bullpen here. Dodgers are ranked 7th. They're a decent bullpen. Rockies are not a good bullpen. They're at 27th. They got their ERA back below 5, though. But they're still not good. Colorado is 4th in offense, although I expect maybe a little bit less out of them on the road. The Dodgers are number 1, of course. This looks like a huge pitching mismatch, at least on the surface. Colorado going with Michael Lorenzen. He's bad. 6.91 ERA, 1.81 whip is very bad. He is better outside of Coors Field, though. 5.68 road ERA, which is still not good, but at least it's better than what he does at home. Wasn't good in his last start at all at home. He had 6 walks against Miami and 4 1/3. Yeah, that is not gonna get the job done. He actually wasn't that bad last month, although his ERA wasn't that good. He was too hittable, but he wasn't walking guys last month. His command was all right. He is way too hittable, though. That's just his main issue. He doesn't really walk that many guys, but he's really, really hittable, which is a huge problem. His strikeout rate's not really that good either. However, believe it or not, he actually isn't that bad against the Dodgers. In 66 at-bats, 273 average, but 663 OPS, pretty low. They don't really hit him for power. 10 strikeouts, 4 walks, so maybe he does actually do okay because he's got decent matchup numbers and he's better on the road at least. He's still the lesser pitcher here because the Dodgers are going with Justin Robleski, and even though the advanced analytics guys do not like this guy, he's still pitching well. 2.8 ERA, 1.01 whip. He's got good numbers that I can't really argue with too much, even though he pitches to contact, so the advanced analytics guys don't like that, but he's been effective. He's got a 2.5 home ERA, which is obviously good. He had 11 strikeouts against the A's last time out at the A's stadium. He's had some pretty difficult opponents here, mostly road games recently, and he's been pretty good He's been good in all of those starts except the one at Pittsburgh. So, yeah, he's pitching well in some pretty difficult environments. So, I think he's kind of legit. He's got a low hit rate. He's got a low walk rate. His strikeout rate's not good. So, again, that's why the advanced analytics guys don't like him, because he doesn't strike guys out. But he's not allowing a lot of hits. His numbers against Colorado are good. In 31 at-bats, 194 average, 452 OPS, 5.0 strikeout walk ratio, only 2 extra base hits, doubles from Karros and Tovar. By the way, is Karros Eric Karros' son? I don't know, man. Kyle Karros? Yeah, I remember Eric Karros being in the league way back in the day. I'm old, man. Maybe that's his son. It might be. That would probably make me feel a bit old. What do we do with this game? Well, I'm staying away from it. I mean, I lean to the Dodgers because I still think they do have the pitching edge here, and the money is kind of doing that, but 89% of tickets, 93% of the cash. Maybe it means public and professionals all on the Dodgers here, but they're minus 280, dude. You can't really lay minus 280. I mean, you could lay a run line with the Dodgers here and get them to win by margin here. Maybe they get it done. It is a high total at 9.5, but I actually like the first 5 under in the game based on what we just saw with the pitching matchup. I think both pitchers might actually do well enough for the first part of this game to go under, and the money is on the under in the full game. 54% of tickets, 67% of the cash on the under. I would not back Colorado's bullpen, though. And I don't think I want to back either bullpen after they got overextended in the extra inning game yesterday. But a first 5 under makes sense. The total's 9.5. So it is high. Usually I say it's high for a reason, but I think maybe there's a little bit of value on the first 5 under, which is probably going to be about 5.5. So do with that what you want. That's the baseball rundown. All right. A long video here. Let's try to get this done in less than another half hour, man. We only have 2 WNBA games. I'm going to give you a play on the ESPN game right now. Whoops. WNBA, we have to get back on track, dude. We started out 5-0, and now we're 6-7, and numerous of these losses have been bullshit. I'm going to give out Dallas +5 against New York. We got to, dude, we're going to have to jump in and fade New York, man. I like the Western Conference more than the Eastern Conference, but I know the Liberty have been playing well against the Western Conference recently, but remember what I talked about when I gave out that loser in the Cup game against Vegas. Vegas was without Asia Wilson, though, and they still maybe should have covered. They made a huge comeback. Vegas actually had the lead late in that game, so I think they probably should have covered. But what I talked about going into that game is the Liberty have been bad against the West Conference, dude. They're still, even after 2 wins against Western teams, Vegas and Minnesota, those are their 2 last games. Huge wins, by the way. Even with those 2 wins, I'm pretty sure the Liberty are 6-7 against the West, which is still not good. And they haven't been particularly good at home. They're a little bit better now, but they're 7-4 at home, which isn't really that good. And Dallas has been decent on the road, 7-5. So, I think for those reasons, like just based on, the conference splits and whatever, I think we could start looking towards Dallas for those reasons. Dallas plays in what I think is the more difficult conference, which is the West. Now, what I did want to look at is what is Dallas's record against the East, I guess is my other question. Dallas, let's see here. The C right here means the Liberty won the Commissioner's Cup. I was like, wait, they already clinched the East? That's ridiculous. Yeah, no, they have not done that yet. Now, Dallas, let's see. Dallas in conference is 6-6 in the West, so that means that they're 7-2 against the East, right? Did I do that math right? Yeah, so Dallas is really good against the East, 7-2. So again, I think we're getting the better conference matchup here. I know the Liberty just beat 2 West teams, but I think that's going to put them in a letdown spot, dude. They won the Commissioner's Cup, huge win against Vegas, but it was without Asia Wilson. And then they beat Minnesota on Friday, huge win against the best team in the league, even though that was without Collier. She's still not back. That's a huge win for the Liberty. Now they're staying at home off of that. I know this is an ESPN game, but you got to think this is a letdown off of that. And who do they play next on ABC on Saturday? They play Minnesota again. So they're in a Minnesota sandwich. They're in a Juicy Lucy, which sounds even more ridiculous in a women's sport. But yeah, I do not like the spot for the Liberty, even though Dallas is a good team. If you're having that game sandwiched in between a Commissioner's Cup win against the returning champs and one of the best teams still, Vegas, and then Minnesota after that, the best team in the league, yeah. And with Minnesota again next, you might not pay as much attention to Dallas. Now, Dallas did come into New York and beat them by 15 back in May, but it wasn't recent, so I'm going to put less weight into that. And if you look into that game, there are some concerns where Dallas really had a 3-point advantage in that game, and that could definitely regress. I know I like to zigzag against teams that had a big 3-point edge in the previous match. I mean, Dallas did. Technically, yes, it could regress here, and New York could potentially still get up for that because they did lose to Dallas here at home. But I think just the games surrounding this game, to me, this makes it look like they're not going to pay as much attention to Dallas here. I think the spot sets up better for Dallas, even though they're less rested. Dallas is already in the East. They just played Toronto. That was an easy win for them. They beat Connecticut barely, and then they were able to play better against Toronto last time out. Not big games. This is a big game for them against New York. This is the biggest game for Dallas since the Commissioner's Cup break. So they just had a couple of easy wins against Connecticut and Toronto. I think they're going to have their sights set on the Liberty here. It's a bad spot for the Liberty. The money agrees with me on this one. 60% of the tickets on the Liberty, 55% of the cash on Dallas. It looks like you have to get 4.5 or 4 now, so I apologize for that. It was 5 when I looked this morning. There were 5 still around. I'd still take it at 4.5 or 4, though. Just, you're not going to get quite the best number there, but I still think it's probably worth it grabbing them as a dog. For what it's worth, I think they were a 5-point underdog the last time they were in New York, so the number hasn't really changed that much. And I think Dallas, we know that Dallas is better than what we thought they were back then too, probably. So we're going to take Dallas plus the 5 there, even though I know Dallas is not a good defensive team. I do understand that. But, yeah, we're going to go with it anyway. The other game is Chicago and Phoenix. Now, I think Chicago is probably in a bad spot because they just were in Las Vegas in that other arena Vegas was playing in. That was a loss, or not a loss for us. That was a no play for us on the show just because I basically said to wait, and then the number wasn't good enough anymore. And it would have been a win at the number that I gave it out at early in the day. But Chicago should have covered, man. They went to overtime. They took Vegas, the returning champs, to overtime. And in fact, Chicago's last 2 games were both pretty good performances. The first one was a loss on the show, which Chicago could have covered and should have covered that game too. So I'm really pissed off about that. Chicago should have covered both games. They fell flat or fell short in both games. I think they might fall flat here, man. After those 2 huge games against Vegas, coming off taking Vegas into overtime, and now you play Phoenix, who hasn't really been playing that well. They did lose to Phoenix early in the season here in this arena. Phoenix won by 8, but I'm not going to put that much weight into that. Phoenix is playing some better basketball again right now, and I told you Phoenix was not as bad as their record looked. They've won 3 in a row, although they only won 1 out of the Commissioner's break. Now, they do have Indiana next, but they're coming off a blowout of Seattle, and that is really the one maybe concern that I have is they just beat Seattle by 23, so maybe they're feeling a little bit good about themselves, and they do have Indiana, Vegas, Minnesota all up next, so I guess, yeah, maybe that is a concern. There's a little bit of a look ahead here, so I'm not going to give this one out as a play, but I still would lean Phoenix here. They're the better team. Chicago could be in a pretty bad spot after those huge Vegas performances, so I would lay the points with Phoenix. It's at 3.5 here, 69% of tickets, 87% of the cash on Phoenix, but I'm going with Dallas in what I think is a pretty mega sandwich spot for New York. That will be my WNBA play, and I am going to give out a World Cup play in the first game, which is Argentina and Egypt in Atlanta. Argentina is coming in from Miami, so it's not a bad travel spot. Both games are in the afternoon today, by the way, so be aware. This game's coming up in an hour at noon, so we're going to get it off right away. Argentina, clearly the better team over Egypt. Argentina is minus 310 on the 3-way line. Now, I don't know if you, if you understand the way that I handicap, if you know what I'm going to do in this game. I actually think that number is low. Like, I saw this number at like 280 something on Argentina, and I'm like, really? Like, I think Argentina is the way better team over Egypt here. So I actually think there's a little bit of value with Argentina here. And I think it's because of what they did in their last game, which I'll talk about in a minute. Egypt, by the way, I think is coming into this game from Kansas City. No, Arlington, Texas, sorry. So they are traveling a little bit more for this. Argentina, now they went into extra time, but the reason why I like Argentina is they went into extra time against Cape Verde, dude, and everybody is giving Argentina shit. Like, oh, Argentina, they're totally vulnerable here. Like, they almost lost to Cape Verde. Did they really, though? Did they really? I know they won on an own goal in extra time, and everybody's like, oh, you know, Argentina, they deserve to lose this game. No, they didn't. If you look at what happened in this game, Cape Verde, they did not put up much offense in this game at all. This should have been an easier win. Look at the stats here, dude. Argentina expected goals 2.26 to 0.47. So basically this tells you this was a 2-0 Argentina win in reality. They won the possession battle pretty significantly. They had way more shots on goal. Cape Verde had 0 big chances, whatever that even means, but that still somehow they scored 2. Where, again, I told you, based on the way the game played out, they actually should have scored 0. So this game was not what it looked like. And I know Argentina had to go into extra time, so yeah, maybe that'll tire them out. But I look at it more like Argentina looked worse than they actually are. It was a misleading result. They took a huge scare, and they're not going to overlook Egypt now because Argentina took a big scare against Cape Verde. Egypt is better than Cape Verde. Argentina's not going to overlook Egypt. And Egypt, you want to talk about exerting yourself, they had to go to penalties. So they went into extra time, and they had to play into penalty kicks to beat Australia. And I think that's pretty damning for Egypt to have to do that because Australia sucks, dude. Egypt, they have not faced a difficult World Cup here, okay? Like, they had a draw with Belgium, which I know that looks good, especially after Belgium crushed the U.S. yesterday, which I wish I gave that out as a play. Belgium, I think Belgium just overlooked Egypt in the first game, whatever. And then all Egypt did since then is beat New Zealand, draw Iran, and almost lose to Australia. None of those teams are good. That's not good. Egypt is not good. Penalty kicks is a really dramatic thing to have to do. I think Argentina is going to refocus because they got scared by a very inferior opponent, and that was misleading. Like I said, Argentina statistically won that game way more easily. Egypt, by the way, they did give Australia an own goal in this game, so Egypt should have won probably in regulation, I guess. But if you look at the stats in this game, they didn't win the game by that much. They did win the possession battle. They won expected goals 1.32 to 0.84. But this basically tells you it was a 1-1 game, and neither team had much offense at all in this game. So, I don't know, man. If Egypt is not able to put up a bunch of offense against Australia, like, how much offense do you really expect out of them in a game against Argentina, who's way, way better? This is the best bet, by the way. And you can probably guess what it is. I think we're getting a good number on this, to be honest. We're going to take the spread with Argentina, -1.5. And I found this at -103. So, yes, we need them to win by 2. But, this seems like a really good price to me. Like, I think this is a pretty decent-sized mismatch here. Argentina, I think, is in a much more focused spot here. Better travel spot as well. I think they're being overlooked because of that last game. Oh, Argentina sucks now. Yeah, no. They're not going to have a difficult time with Egypt. I think they're going to get this thing done. I think they should win this game by multiple goals. Let's get it, man. I think this is the right way to play this. Again, I thought that the three-way line and the spread actually were cheaper than I expected them to be here. So I think there might be a little bit of value. Argentina is still one of the top teams, man. They have some of the best odds to win, although some of that is because their path is easy, but this is part of that easy path. Egypt is not a very formidable opponent, so we're going with, sorry, I got to refresh this. We're going to go with Argentina there. Now, I couldn't really read the market as far as Action Network. Argentina is getting a lot of public action, which doesn't really surprise me. They're supposed to win, but we're finding a different way to play that. And then Switzerland-Colombia is a much more competitive matchup in Vancouver. It's interesting. Colombia is the better team. They're at +125. If you saw my bracket special, I have Argentina and Colombia advancing in these two games, by the way. And I got all these matchups correct, too. So, the only team that's made it to the final 8 that I do not have right so far in my bracket was Morocco. I had the Netherlands there, but I have all the other teams that have made it to this point correct so far. Yes, including Belgium and Norway. So, yeah. This game, yes, I have Colombia winning. They're the better team, but it's close, dude. Plus 125 on the 3-way. I think I am going to lean to Colombia here, but I think it's a close call, dude. Switzerland really just has not been battle-tested. They drew with Qatar, which is not good. They beat Bosnia, not impressive. Although, I gave out Switzerland in that game, if you remember, because Bosnia was coming off some overperformance, and Switzerland had underperformed majorly against Qatar. So I was like, yeah, Switzerland's going to come out with force here and just easily beat this inferior Bosnia team. That was a win on the show. That was one of the biggest. Oh, sorry, I forgot to put my record up. I apologize. Yeah, I think this is the most recent one with the 1-0 yesterday. I keep forgetting to do that. 142, 89, and 10 last 93 days. Still pretty good percentage there. And almost all these plays are at a minus 140 money line or cheat or less. You know, like I'm not playing huge favorites, except I did give out Switzerland minus 180 in this game. I just thought that was the right way to play that. Anyway, what did Switzerland do after that? They beat Canada, not impressive really. And then they beat Algeria to advance in the knockout round. Still not really that impressive. Colombia is going to be the best team they've faced so far, so it's not going to be easy. Colombia is more battle-tested, basically, just because they played Portugal. That was their big game. They had a draw against Portugal. They did play well against Portugal. Other than that, yeah, I mean, they beat Uzbekistan. They beat DR Congo, which other teams were unable to do. And then they beat Ghana to win their game here. That was in Kansas City, by the way, so... speaking of the travel here, the travel does actually benefit Switzerland. Switzerland is staying in Vancouver for this. Switzerland last played in Vancouver. Colombia is having to come in from Kansas City. So the travel spot is worse for Colombia. But their first game was more impressive. I know we won with Ghana plus the 1.5 goals in this game, but I think I got lucky on that one, dude. I don't think I should have made that play. I thought it was going to be a low-scoring game. Like, you know, I went into... just the fact that Ghana hadn't allowed a lot of goals throughout the World Cup. Colombia hadn't scored a lot. And yeah, we got the win with Ghana plus 1.5, but Colombia should have won the game 2-0. Like, this was kind of a misleading final. Colombia won the game. Ghana put up no offense in this game. Switzerland is going to be better than Ghana. There's no question about that, but Colombia was pretty good in this game. 2 to basically 0 expected goals. Won the possession battle. Ghana had no shots on goal, so... they basically didn't even have a chance to score. Colombia put 8 shots on goal, so Ghana definitely saved us with their goaltending there. We got a little bit lucky there. Colombia was good. They were better than they looked in that game. I think Colombia's been a little bit more impressive, even though they're at a travel disadvantage. I believe the cash percentage is back in Colombia when I looked on Action Network. It seemed like Switzerland was getting a little bit more public activity. Colombia maybe a little bit more under the radar. I got Colombia winning this one in my bracket. I'll lean Colombia in that one, but I like the Argentina look better there. And I think that's it, man. That's going to do it. My plays today are the Chicago Cubs on the money line, Cleveland Indians on the money line, which I added last minute, but I don't even love that Cubs play. I don't know. Those are both starting pitching matchup. Cleveland is more of it's a situational play too, though. We're on Dallas plus 5, the Wings. Hopefully we can fly to a win there. We have to get WNBA back on track, dude. So that's the WNBA play, Dallas plus the points. And then World Cup's gone well for me, surprisingly. So we're going to lay the 1.5 with Argentina, and what I think is a good spot to do that. That's going to do it here. I know Egypt is not good. Yeah, Saab, what's up, man? Salah, Mohamed Salah, not Robert Salah, the former... or not former, former Jets coach, but I think, he's still defensive coordinator, right, for San Francisco, or is he now a head coaching? No, he's the head coach of Tennessee now, right? I don't know, I forget. Where the hell is he now? I forget. But yeah, Mohamed Salah. Yeah, he's the best player on Egypt, I think. He's not that good. I don't know much about the English Premier League, man. You know more than I do. You like Messi, 2+ goals. I would not do that. A specific player to score 2 goals? Are you kidding me? No. You know, I don't like the individual player to score a goal prop is always, you're never getting a good price on it. And on a star player like Messi, who's had a good World Cup, you're not getting any value on that. I don't like that. Obviously, I like Argentina, and I would not disagree with you on Argentina going over their team total. I would probably agree with that, which is probably a 2.5. But I like the spread at -1.5. That's what we're doing. And that's it. It's going to do it. Learn to Toad on Twitter. Learn to Toad on Instagram. Like, subscribe to the channel here. We got to get to 500, man. Let's start making more money out of this. We're on audio, Apple, Spotify, Spreaker. Check that stuff out. What else do I have? Covered in Uke is my Uke channel on YouTube, although, again, my voice has been killing me. Patreon.com/LearnToToad. I put some of my recent Uke stuff is up on that feed now, so check that out if you want to support me that way. Losercast will be on tonight. And also be on the lookout for, I was on Here's the Thing, which is with Snoop, who's from the Pick Is In podcast that I was also on recently. Here's the Thing. We had a conversational podcast. That's going to drop today at some point, so be on the lookout for that. I believe that's going to be on YouTube. And then the New York Giants G-Spot podcast. I don't know what to tell you about that, but it should happen at some point. That's going to do it for now. I appreciate it, everybody. Peace.
But don't you go quiet, don't you fade from the floor. Your name still means something to somebody for sure. Put the glass down, baby. Look at me now.